The final note of my song hung in the air, fragile, like a breath you're afraid to let go. My fingers lingered on the guitar strings, trembling, as I scanned the crowded community center. Rows of faces stared back, some bored, some whispering, none clapping. Silence. Not a single hand moved. Then I heard it, sharp and cold, slicing through the quiet. "That's the quiet girl," a woman muttered, just loud enough for me to catch. "No wonder she's alone." My chest tightened, my ears burned, and I locked eyes with my daughter Chloe, sitting in the third row. Her small face, usually so bright, crumpled with confusion. I wanted to run, to grab her hand and flee this stage, this town, these people. But my legs wouldn't move. I stood there, frozen, the weight of their judgment pinning me in place. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to stay updated with all our latest stories. Your support means the world. If you find this video valuable, give it a like. I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your city in the comments below, and so will our other viewers. Now let's dive into the story. My name is Scarlett, I'm 34, and I've been raising my daughter Chloe, who's 10, on my own since she was a toddler. We live in a small Tennessee town, the kind where everyone knows your business, whether you drive a beat-up sedan or if your kid's backpack is patched together with duct tape. I've always blended in, or at least tried to, but moments like that open mic night remind me I'll never quite belong. By day, I'm a cashier at the local grocery store, scanning canned beans and forcing smiles for customers who barely look at me. At night, I clean the community center, mopping floors after yoga classes or wiping down tables after book clubs. It's not much, but it pays the rent and keeps Chloe fed. Music has always been my escape. My mom was a singer, back when this town still had a dive bar with a stage. She never made it big, but her voice, raw, soulful, stayed with me after she passed. I started writing songs in high school, scribbling lyrics in notebooks I hid under my mattress. They were my way of processing the world, grief, hope, the ache of being invisible. I never shared them, not until Chloe found one of my notebooks last year. "Mom," she said, her eyes wide, "this feels like a rainy day in a good way." That's when I started playing for her, soft chords on a secondhand guitar I bought for $40 at a pawn shop. She'd curl up on our couch, listening, and tell me, "You should let people hear this." When the community center announced its annual open mic night, Chloe was the one who pushed me to sign up. "You're better than half the people who'll be there," she said, her voice fierce despite the braces on her teeth. I hesitated. Performing meant being seen, something I'd spent years avoiding. Plus, my boss, Mason, a part-time musician himself, had already warned me about taking time off. "Don't expect special treatment," he texted when I requested the evening. Missing work could cost me my job, but Chloe's belief in me was stronger than my fear. I filled out the sign-up form, my hands shaking as I wrote my name. The week before the open mic, I overheard my coworker Hannah talking in the break room. "Scarlett's performing," she said, laughing. "The quiet girl who mops the floors? Good luck." Her words stung, but they also lit a fire in me. I practiced every night after Chloe went to bed, strumming until my fingers ached. The song I'd chosen was one I wrote for her, a ballad about carrying light through dark days. It wasn't flashy, just honest, the kind of music that feels like it's pulling your heart out of your chest. Chloe had her own battles. At school, some kids teased her for my weird songs or our thrift store clothes. She never told me directly, but I saw it in the way she'd come home quiet, her backpack slung low. The day before the open mic, she admitted one girl had laughed at her for saying I'd be the best act. "Don't let them stop you, Mom," she said, her voice small but steady. "Show them." I pulled her into a hug, promising I'd try. The night of the open mic, we arrived early. The community center buzzed with energy. Locals in flannel shirts, kids running around, musicians tuning guitars backstage. I wore my best dress, a navy one I'd hemmed myself, and Chloe picked out a yellow headband to match her jeans. She squeezed my hand as we found her a seat. "You've got this," she whispered, echoing the words I'd said to her so many times. I climbed the stage steps, my guitar strapped across my chest, and faced the crowd. The spotlight burned my eyes, but I thought of Chloe, of my mom, of every time I'd stayed silent. Then I started to play. The song poured out of me, each note a piece of my soul. I closed my eyes, letting the melody carry me, hoping someone out there would feel it too. But as I strummed the final chord, the silence hit like a slap. No applause, no murmurs, just that cruel whisper, "That's the quiet girl." I looked at Chloe, her hands clasped tight, her eyes searching mine. In that moment, I wasn't just failing myself, I was failing her. The silence pressed against my skin heavy, like a room running out of air. I stood on the community center stage, my guitar still slung across my chest, its weight suddenly unbearable. The crowd's faces blurred into a sea of indifference. Some scrolled on their phones, others whispered to their neighbors. No one clapped. Not even a pity clap. The woman's words, "That's the quiet girl," echoed in my head, each syllable a jab to my gut. I forced myself to move, to step away from the microphone, but my legs felt like they were wading through mud. I glanced at Chloe again, my 10-year-old daughter, sitting rigid in the third row. Her hands were balled into fists, her eyes wide with hurt. She wasn't just confused anymore. She was ashamed. For me. My throat burned, and I wanted nothing more than to grab her and run out of this place, away from the eyes that saw us as less. I took a shaky step toward the stage's edge, my boots scuffing against the worn wood. That's when I heard another whisper, this one closer, from a man in a plaid shirt 2 rows back. "Pathetic," he muttered, loud enough for his buddy to chuckle. My face flushed, and I bit the inside of my cheek to keep from crying. I'd poured my heart into that song, every note a piece of me, and they'd thrown it back like it was nothing. I scanned the crowd again, desperate for one kind face, but all I saw were distracted parents, restless kids, and my boss, Mason, glaring from the side aisle. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I didn't need to look to know it was him. I pulled it out anyway, my hands trembling. His text glowed on the screen. "Don't expect to keep your job after the stunt. Told you not to waste my time." My stomach dropped. I'd risked everything, my livelihood, Chloe's stability, for this moment, and it was crumbling before my eyes. I forced myself to keep moving, to get off the stage before I fell apart. Backstage, the other performers barely glanced at me, too busy tuning their instruments or practicing dance moves. I clutched my guitar case, my knuckles white, and headed toward the side door to find Chloe. She wasn't in her seat anymore. Panic flared in my chest. I pushed through the curtain, scanning the dimly lit hallway, and spotted her slipping into the bathroom, her shoulders hunched. I started toward her, but a girl's voice stopped me cold. "Your mom's song was so weird," a classmate sneered, her voice drifting from the bathroom door. No wonder nobody clapped. Another girl giggled. I froze, my hand on the wall, my heart cracking. Chloe didn't respond, but I could picture her in there, head down, trying to disappear. I wanted to barge in, to shield her, to tell those kids they were wrong, but my feet wouldn't move. I was failing her again. I leaned against the wall, my breath shallow, trying to hold it together. The open mic continued behind me. The next act, a teenage boy with a ukulele, already strumming to scattered applause. I closed my eyes, willing myself to focus, to find Chloe and get us out of here. But then something shifted. A murmur rippled through the crowd, low at first, then sharper, like a current cutting through still water. I opened my eyes and turned back toward the auditorium. People were craning their necks, whispering to each other. "Who's that?" someone said. I stepped closer to the curtain, peering out. A man in a simple black jacket was standing in the back row, tall and still, his face half-shadowed under the dim lights. He wasn't clapping or talking. He was just watching the stage, his gaze steady, almost unnerving. Then he started walking. The room grew quieter with every step he took down the aisle. Heads turned, whispers multiplied. "Is he part of the show?" a woman asked. The event organizer, a nervous guy with a clipboard, glanced at the judges, who looked just as confused. The man didn't rush, didn't hesitate. His hands were tucked behind his back, his stride calm but deliberate, like he'd done this 100 times. I couldn't see his face clearly, but something about the way he moved made my pulse quicken. He wasn't here for the ukulele kid still playing. He was coming for the stage. For me. I didn't know how I knew, but I felt it, a pull in my chest that told me this wasn't over. Chloe was still in the bathroom, the crowd was still whispering, and Mason's text was still burning a hole in my pocket, but for the first time that night, I didn't want to run. I stood there, gripping my guitar case, holding my breath, waiting to see what he'd do next. The man in the black jacket reached the front of the auditorium, his footsteps echoing in the hush that had swallowed the room. The ukulele kid on stage faltered, his strumming fading into a nervous pluck as every eye followed the stranger. I stood backstage, clutching my guitar case, my heart pounding so loud I thought it might crack my ribs. Chloe was still in the bathroom, probably hiding from her classmates' cruel words, and Mason's text about my job burned in my mind. But this man, his presence held me in place, like a rope pulling me back from the edge of running. He stopped at the base of the stage, turned to the event organizer, and spoke, his voice low but clear. "May I have the microphone for a moment?" The organizer blinked, caught off guard, then gave a hesitant nod. A volunteer scurried over, handing him the mic. He stepped onto the stage, the spotlight catching the silver in his hair. The crowd leaned forward, whispers buzzing like static. "Who is he?" someone muttered. I peeked through the curtain, my breath shallow. He didn't look like anyone from town. No flannel, no cowboy boots, just a plain jacket and a calm that felt out of place. He lifted the mic, scanning the room before speaking. "My name is Dr. Lucas Carter," he said, his voice steady, cutting through the tension. "I'm a music professor, passing through after a canceled lecture in Nashville. I wasn't supposed to be here tonight, but I'm glad I am. Because I just heard something extraordinary." He paused, letting the words settle. My stomach twisted. Was he talking about me? He turned slightly, his eyes finding the side of the stage where I stood, half hidden. "Scarlett," he said, my name sounding like a note struck just right. "Your song was a voice that demands to be heard. I've listened to thousands of performances in my career, and yours stopped me cold. It was raw, honest art." The room shifted, murmurs rippling through the crowd. A woman near the front gasped, whispering, "Nashville?" like it was a magic word. I froze, my hands trembling on the guitar case. Was this real? Or was he mocking me, setting me up for another fall? Before I could process it, a voice cut through the air. "This is a load of crap." Mason, my boss, stood up from the side aisle, his face red. "Who are you, anyway? I've played gigs in Nashville, and I've never heard of you. You're just grandstanding." The crowd stirred, some nodding, others looking skeptical. My heart sank. Mason's words were a match to my doubts, threatening to burn this moment to ash. The judges exchanged glances, one scribbling furiously on her clipboard. The organizer stepped forward, raising a hand. "Sir, please, let's keep this civil." But Mason crossed his arms, smirking. "I'm just saying this guy's a nobody. Scarlett's nobody. Why the theatrics?" Lucas didn't flinch. He lowered the mic for a moment, his eyes narrowing slightly, then raised it again. "I don't need to prove my credentials to you," he said, his tone calm but sharp. "But I'll prove what I heard." He turned back to me, his gaze steady. "Scarlett, would you do us the honor of playing your song again? This time, may I join you on the piano?" My breath caught. Join me? I hadn't played with anyone since jamming with my mom as a kid. My song was mine, fragile, and the idea of someone else touching it terrified me. But his voice, his certainty, it was like he saw something in me I couldn't. The crowd was split. Some clapped lightly, curious, others muttered, siding with Mason. I caught a glimpse of an older man in the back row, squinting at Lucas like he recognized him. "Wait," he whispered to his wife. "Isn't that the guy who used to play at the old bar? The one who left town?" Lucas didn't react, his focus on me. I stepped forward, my boots heavy on the floorboards. My mind screamed to say no, to run to Chloe, to protect what was left of my pride. But then I saw her, peeking out from the hallway, her face tear-streaked but hopeful. She nodded, just once, her small hand clutching the doorframe. That nod was louder than Mason's taunts, louder than the silence that had crushed me. "Okay," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. The volunteer handed me my guitar, and I walked back onto the stage, my legs shaking. Lucas sat at the piano, his fingers hovering over the keys, waiting for me. The crowd hushed again, but this time it felt different. Not empty, but expectant. I adjusted the mic, my hands slick with sweat, and looked at Chloe. This wasn't just for me anymore. It was for her, for every time she'd been laughed at, for every time we'd been invisible. I took a deep breath, ready to play, not knowing if this would save me or break me. I strummed the first chord, the sound slicing through the auditorium's expectant hush. My fingers, still shaky, found their rhythm, and the melody of my song, raw, aching, full of the light and dark I'd carried for years, poured out. Lucas's piano joined in, his chords soft at first, like a whisper echoing my guitar. He didn't overpower me. He lifted me, his notes weaving around mine, giving my music a depth I'd never heard. I closed my eyes, letting the song carry me, my voice steadying as I sang of loss, hope, and the quiet strength of starting over. The stage felt alive, the spotlight warm, and for the first time that night, I wasn't alone. The crowd, once distracted, leaned forward, phones down, eyes locked on us. When we hit the final note, a delicate harmony that hung in the air, the room exploded. Applause roared like a wave, hands clapping, voices shouting, feet stomping. I opened my eyes, stunned, and saw Chloe in the third row, standing on her chair, clapping so hard her hands must have stung. Lucas gave me a small nod, his face calm but kind, and I managed a shaky smile. The judges were scribbling furiously, one wiping her glasses like she'd teared up. People I'd never spoken to, parents from Chloe's school, regulars from the grocery store, were on their feet, whistling, some recording with their phones. I felt my chest loosen, like I could breathe for the first time all night. I looked at Chloe again, her grin brighter than the spotlight, and thought, we did it. But as I stepped off the stage, guitar in hand, the high crashed. Backstage, I overheard Hannah, my coworker, talking to a group of performers. She paid that guy to make her look good, she said, her voice dripping with venom. Scarlett's not that special. It's a scam. My stomach twisted. Paid him? I'd never even met Lucas before tonight. I clutched my guitar case, my face burning. A few performers glanced at me, their eyes narrowing with doubt. Mason, lurking nearby, smirked and pulled out his phone, typing quickly. My own phone buzzed, and I checked it, dreading what I'd see. Another text from him. Heard you bribed some fake professor. You're done here. The words hit like a punch. He'd already reported me to our boss, claiming I'd snuck off work for this stunt. Losing my job was one thing, but this rumor, it was stealing the one moment I'd felt seen. I stormed toward Hannah, my boots thudding against the floor. Why would you say that? I demanded, my voice low but sharp. She turned, startled, then crossed her arms. What? It's true. Nobody's that good out of nowhere. Her eyes flicked over me, dismissive. I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. Everyone. I snapped. Or just you. My hands shook, but I held her gaze. I've heard you sing, Hannah. You're good, but you're scared. So you tear me down to feel better. Her face flushed, and for a second, I saw it, jealousy, raw and ugly. Whatever, she muttered, turning away. But she didn't deny it. The other performers shifted uncomfortably, some looking away, others whispering. I wanted to scream, to make them all see the truth, but my energy drained. The applause still echoed in my ears, but it felt hollow now, tainted by lies. I turned to find Chloe, needing her more than ever. She was backstage, standing tall, her chin up despite the redness in her eyes. Mom, she said, rushing to me. That was amazing. Then she lowered her voice fierce. I told that girl off. The one who made fun of you. I said you're a musician, and she can't take that away. My heart swelled, even as it ached. Chloe, my quiet girl, had found her voice because of me. I pulled her into a hug, her small frame warm against mine. I'm so proud of you, I whispered, my voice cracking. But the weight of Mason's text and Hannah's rumor pressed down. I won the crowd, but at what cost? My job was slipping away, and this town would never let me forget I was the quiet girl who dared to step out of line. As we stood there, the crowd's cheers fading, I felt eyes on me. Mason was still there, typing, spreading his poison. The judges were huddled, glancing my way, their expressions unreadable. I tightened my grip on Chloe's hand, my mind racing. Lucas was somewhere out there, but what if Mason was right? What if he wasn't who he said? The older man's whisper about Lucas knowing this town haunted me. I didn't know what was coming next, but I knew one thing. This wasn't over. Not yet. The auditorium was still buzzing, the echoes of applause lingering as I stood backstage with Chloe, her hand tight in mine. My heart was a tangle of pride and fear, pride from our duet with Lucas, fear from Mason's text threatening my job and Hannah's rumor poisoning my moment. I wanted to savor Chloe's fierce smile, the way she'd stood up to her bully, but the weight of what came next pressed down. Lucas approached us, his black jacket slightly rumpled, his eyes kind but serious. The crowd parted for him, some still whispering, others snapping photos. He stopped in front of us, ignoring the stares, and spoke softly. "Scarlett, Chloe, I'd like to talk." Some were quieter. I nodded, my throat dry, and led Chloe to a small side room, its walls lined with old posters from past open mic nights. Lucas closed the door, muffling the noise outside. "What you did tonight," he began, looking at me, "wasn't just a performance. It was a gift. I want to offer you a chance to nurture that." He pulled a card from his pocket, embossed with a Nashville address. "I'm part of a music foundation that runs a songwriting workshop, fully funded, for artists who deserve to be heard. I'd like you to join us, Scarlett. And Chloe," he added, turning to her, "we have a youth program for music production. You could learn to shape songs like your mom's." Chloe's eyes widened, her fingers squeezing mine. I felt a rush of hope, but it crashed against a wall of doubt. Nashville? With what money? What time? My job was hanging by a thread, and we barely scraped by as it was. Before I could speak, Lucas raised a hand, addressing the elephant in the room. "I heard the rumor that you paid me to praise you." His voice hardened slightly. "It's nonsense. I chose to step up because your music demanded it. Nothing more." He turned to the door, where a few lingering performers were visible through the glass. "I'll make that clear to everyone out there. Your talent speaks for itself." My chest loosened, but only a little. His words were a lifeline, but the rumor wasn't my only problem. I clutched the card, my mind racing. "Thank you," I said, my voice unsteady. "But I don't know if I can do this. I'm barely keeping things together here." Lucas's expression softened, and he leaned forward, his voice low. "There's something else you should know. I didn't just stumble into this town. I knew your mother, Scarlett. She sang at this very community center, back when it was a bar with a stage. Her voice was like yours, honest, unforgettable. I was a young musician then, playing gigs here before I left for Nashville. I saw her potential, and tonight I saw it in you." My breath caught, my eyes stinging. "My mom? The woman who'd hummed lullabies to me, who died before I could know her dreams. She never got her chance," Lucas continued. "But you can. Don't let fear stop you." I looked at Chloe, her face lit with wonder, but my heart sank. "It's not just fear," I admitted, my voice breaking. "I can't afford to leave my job, even if it's hanging by a thread. The bus to Nashville, the time away, it's too much. We've got rent, groceries, Chloe's school supplies." I hated saying it, hated how small it made me feel, but it was the truth. Chloe's grip tightened, and she stepped forward, her voice fierce. "Mom, we can do this. Together. I don't care if we have to eat cereal for a month. I want to go. I want us to try." Her words hit me like a spark, igniting something I'd buried under years of scraping by. She wasn't just my daughter. She was my courage. Lucas nodded, his eyes steady. "The foundation covers travel, lodging, everything. You won't owe a dime. This isn't charity. It's investment in talent." He glanced at Chloe, then back at me. "And it's not just about you. It's about her too." I looked down at the card, its edges sharp against my fingers. My mom's face flashed in my mind, her smile, her voice, the songs she'd never shared. I thought of Chloe, standing up to her bully, believing in me when I couldn't. The fear was still there, a knot in my chest, but it wasn't louder than their voices. Okay, I said, my voice stronger now. We'll do it. Lucas smiled, a small, genuine curve of his lips. Good. I'll make the arrangements. He stepped toward the door, then paused. And Scarlett? When you get out there, hold your head high. They're already talking about you. I nodded, squeezing Chloe's hand. The rumor was dead, my mom's legacy alive in me, but the fight wasn't over. Mason's text loomed, and the town's whispers wouldn't stop. But for the first time, I felt ready to face them. 6 months later, I'm sitting in a Nashville studio, a real one with soundproof walls and microphones that don't crackle. Chloe's next to me, her headphones tilted as she tweaks a track on a laptop, her fingers flying with a confidence I barely recognize. The workshop Lucas invited us to has become our weekend home, a place where my songs find new shapes and Chloe's learning to weave beats like she's been doing it her whole life. I still work my cashier job back in Tennessee, still mop floors some nights, but it feels different now. Not because we're rich, we're not, but because I see myself differently. I'm not the quiet girl anymore. I'm a songwriter, a mom, a woman who stepped onto a stage and didn't let silence stop her. That open mic night changed everything, though not in the way I expected. I thought it'd be about proving myself to the town, to the people who whispered behind my back. But it was about proving something to me. To Chloe. That night, when Lucas stood up, when he played those piano chords that lifted my song, he didn't just give me a stage, he gave me permission to take up space. I think about it sometimes, how close I came to running, to letting Hannah's lies and Mason's threats bury me. But Chloe's nod, Lucas's belief, and the memory of my mom's voice kept me there. I still play that song, the one no one clapped for at first. But now it's fuller, bolder, like I'm claiming every note instead of hoping someone else will. Back home, things have shifted. The town still talks, but it's different now. Parents who ignored me at school pick up nod when I pass. Kids who teased Chloe ask her about that cool music stuff she's learning. Even Mason, of all people, showed up at one of my workshop performances last month. I was nervous, seeing him in the crowd, his arms crossed like he was ready to judge. But after I played a new song about breaking free, he waited by the exit, his face softer than I'd ever seen. I was wrong, he said, his voice low. About that night. I was jealous. You've got something real. I didn't expect it to matter, but it did. I nodded, said, thanks for saying that, and let it go. Forgiveness isn't about him. It's about me not carrying his weight anymore. Chloe's changed too. She's still my quiet girl, but there's a fire in her now. She doesn't shrink when kids whisper at school. She talks about sound mixing like it's her secret language, and her teachers say she's got a knack for it. Last week, she showed me a beat she made, layered with a sample of my guitar. It's us, she said, grinning. I hugged her tight, my eyes stinging. She's not just following my path, she's carving her own. I think about what Lucas said, about my mom never getting her chance. Maybe this is her legacy, not just in me, but in Chloe, in the music we're making together. I still drive that beat-up sedan, still pack Chloe's lunch in a plain bag, but I don't hide my notebooks anymore. I write in the open on the kitchen table, while Chloe hums nearby. I don't worry about who's watching when I play. I'm not performing for applause, I'm telling my truth, and that's enough. Lucas was right. It only takes one person to see you, to remind you your light isn't invisible. He didn't save me. He showed me I could save myself. And Chloe? She's the reason I keep going, the reason I'll never stop. If this story hit you, if it made you think about a time you were overlooked or finally seen, I want to hear about it. Drop your story in the comments. What was your moment? Who stood up for you? Or when did you find your voice? I read every one. And if you're still here, you know there's power in quiet voices. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more stories that make you feel something real. Tell me your city too. I'm curious where you're listening from. For me, it's a little town in Tennessee, but it's not about where you are. It's about what you carry. Keep playing your song, even if the room stays silent. One day, someone will hear it, and that might be the moment everything changes.